Thank you. Item 4, Treaty Obligations, Legal Foundations and Strategic Direction. So we wait with bated breath. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, everyone. Look, there's been a bit of work going into this with from Kat and Luke. I commend them for their work. Welcome to Nathaniel and David. Sorry I haven't caught up with you yet, but look forward to catching up with you soon. But we'll just climb straight into it. It hasn't come without its challenges, and I will leave you in the good hands of Kat and Luke. Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou ngā rangatira, me ngā kaimahi o te kauni here o Tautahi. He mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa e tēnei wā. So greetings to you, the councillors, and especially a warm greeting to our new councillors that have joined us today. Ko Kataraina Whittle tōku ingoa. My name is Kataraina Whittle and my sidekick is Luke.
Kia ora. Alrighty. So today's session, we're going to provide an overview of council's obligations under Te Tiriti and the legislative frameworks that guide how we work with Māori. We'll also outline the current partnership arrangements with mana whenua, describe the wider Māori communities in Ōtautahi, and consider options for strengthening council's approach going forward. And the purpose of this is to support understanding and orientation. All right, so first up, the Te Tiriti. So this affirms the partnership between the Crown and Māori through kawanatanga. So that's the Crown's right and responsibility to govern. Tino rangatiratanga, so that's the protection of Māori authority over their lands, taonga and cultural identity. And oretitanga, so that's equitable treatment and outcomes for Māori reflected in modern public sector obligations around fairness, inclusion and participation. So although councils are not treaty partners in their own right, these principles are reflected within legislation that does apply to us. So in particularly the Local Government Act and the Resource Management Act. These statutes require councils to actively protect Māori interests when exercising our statutory functions, consider Māori views in decision making, support Māori participation in governance and planning, and incorporate Māori perspectives in matters relating to land, water, culture, and community wellbeing. Another key piece of the legal framework is the Ngāi Tahu Claims Settlement Act. So in 1998, this acknowledged past breaches of Te Tiriti and recognised Ngāi Tahu rangatiratanga. The settlement established ongoing mechanisms, including statutory acknowledgements and cultural redress instruments. And these mechanisms sit along the LGA and the RMA to together help form the legal and historical basis for how council engages with mana whenua. So we do have statutory duties under the LGA and RMA. So when we talk about council's responsibilities under Te Tiriti, it's important to remember that we're not treaty partners. However, some of those principles are reflected in the statutes that govern us. Under the Local Government Act, Section 4 states that Crown's treaty obligations require councils to support Māori participation in decision-making. Section 14 requires councils to act in accordance with the principle for providing opportunities for Māori to contribute to our decision-making processes. And Sections 77 and 81 require us to take Māori views into account when making decisions, especially where land and water are involved, and to maintain processes that enable Māori to participate, including building their capacity to do so. Under the Resource Management Act, that requires us to recognise and provide for Māori relationships with ancestral lands, water, and wāhi tapu. Section 7 requires particular regard to kaitiakitanga, the guardianship role of mana whenua. And Section 8 requires us to take treaty principles into account. So together, these provisions clearly direct the way we must support Māori participation, protect Māori interests and recognise mana whenua's role as kaitiaki. And this is why our engagement with Māori isn't optional. It's a core part of our legislative responsibilities.
So having highlighted the Council's broad relationship with Māori, it is important to distinguish between two key groups that make up Māori community. Mana whenua ngā papa te purunanga. Mana whenua, through whakapapa or ancestral genealogy and ahika, continued occupation, hold ancestral authority and kaitiakitanga guardianship over the land and water. They guide environmental decisions with mātauranga Māori and tikanga, and their rangatiratanga is affirmed in Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Ngā mātā waka, pan-Māori communities. Ngā mātā waka are Māori who live in the district but do not whakapapa to the local papa te purunanga. This includes Te Taurahere waka, Māori who maintain ties to their own iwi while living here. Each group holds specific roles and responsibilities as kaitiaki over their environment and the care of people who reside in Ōtautahi and Te Pātaka o Rākai Hautu. To support these relationships, Whiria, the Council's treaty relationships teams, acts as an interface with the Māori community. Whiria plays a key role in ensuring Māori voices, values and Te Tiriti obligations are heard in Council governance, planning and engagement, while also ensuring that the Council voice is present in Māori spaces. Where are we? Yes. Ngai tahu whānui a tangata whenua of Te Waipounamu, represented by Te Runanga o Ngaitahu or Tront, under the Te Runanga o Ngaitahu Act 1996. Within Ōtautahi and Te Pātaka o Rākai Hautu, 6 papa te purunanga hold mana whenua status. Te Ngai Tuāhurere Runanga and Te Hapu o Ngāti Whiki o Rāpaki, Te Runanga o Kaukau Rārata, Ōnuku Runanga, Wairewa Runanga and Te Taumatu Runanga. Each papa tupu runanga holds its mana and kaitiakitanga within its takiwā and engages with Council on planning, environmental management and cultural matters. Their elected chairs are mandated to make decisions on behalf of their runanga, contributing to both local interests and broader iwi matters relating to rangatiratanga. In 2016, Te Honanga Council Papa Tupu Runanga Committee Agreement formalised the partnership between ngā Papa Tupu Runanga and Christchurch City Council, embedding their views and values in Council decision-making. Council staff collaborate with ngā Papa Tupu Runanga on projects such as Aotakaro Avon River Corridor, Whakaraupo, Healthy Harbours and climate adaptive initiatives. While mana whenua hold rangatiratanga within this takiwā, the Māori community is broader than those with whakapapa ties to ngā Papa Tupu Runanga. Equally important are ngā mātā waka, Māori from other iwi who live here permanently and contribute to the cultural and social fabric of Ōtautahi and Te Pātaka o Rākai Hautu. Ngā mātā waka refers to Māori living in the city who do not whakapapa to local runanga. Many come together through iwi-based or urban Māori groups for cultural support and representation. Although without ancestral authority, ngā mātā waka support mana whenua through collaboration, advocacy and urban Māori organisations and groups. They uphold shared kaitiakitanga and contribute diverse perspectives in environmental and social wellbeing matters. Council currently engages with ngā mātā waka primarily through funding arrangements with social agencies, service providers and groups. There is a clear opportunity to strengthen these relationships and identify additional ngā mātā waka and te taurahere waka stakeholders for ongoing engagement. Having considered both mana whenua, Papa Tupu Runanga and ngā mātā waka, it is clear that our relationship with Māori community is diverse and vital. To sustain and strengthen these relationships, we must remain mindful of the changing legislative environmental landscape ahead of us.
So the government has signalled that it intends to review the treaty-related provisions across a range of legislation. That includes the LGA and the RMA. At this stage, it suggests that there's a possible shift from the stronger requirements like recognise and give effect to towards a softer wording such as have regard to. So the important thing to note is even if the wording changes, councils still operate within a framework of some sort where Māori rights and interests are embedded in multiple places. So there's still the Ngāi Tahu settlement legislation, statutory acknowledgements, and the fact that decisions affecting land, water, and environmental management intersect with mana whenua responsibilities. Second, councils remain decision makers, exercising powers delegated by the Crown. So there will be some level of treaty alignment remaining in the LGA and RMA, especially where Māori interests are clearly defined. So in terms of navigating the uncertainty, I guess the key thing is to maintain our current commitments and ways of working while we'll continue to monitor the reform closely. What this means is regardless of national reforms, we can still choose to take a more structured and consistent approach to Māori engagement. So our relationship with mana whenua is well established, as Kat outlined, and as we consider or as we continue to strengthen that partnership, there's also opportunity to take a more coordinated approach with Mātāwaka. So currently our engagement with Mātāwaka tends to occur through more ad hoc arrangements. However, a deliberate organisation-wide approach would help us better understand who these groups are, how they want to engage with council, and what their priorities are in a more deliberate way, and something that we can embed more strongly into top to bottom of what we do. It would support stronger alignment with our statutory duties, provide consistency across governance, planning, and operations, and it would actually help build more enduring relationships with both mana whenua and Mātāwaka. So our suggestion is that we start developing a Māori strategy that could be something that would provide the structure. So identifying key groups, setting out how we approach engagement, and giving council a stable and consistent way of working with Māori communities across all areas of our activity. Do you want to add anything? No, it's all good.
I guess what I'd like to say is that we maintain our traction in being a forward-thinking council. Before Yanni asks the question, have we been talking to iwi and Papatipu? We've had many discussions with Papatipu, and there seems to be some thematic unity right across the 6 Papatipu. However, given the vicissitudinal nature of the current political climate, things could change. But thank you very much for listening to us.
Absolutely, that's cool. I've got one question at the moment, Tyler, and then Yanni, and then Celeste.
Kia ora. I've got 2 questions. The first one is, can you elaborate particularly around what organisations we're currently working with in terms of ngā Mātāwaka? It'll be good for public knowledge to understand
100%.
where we're at.
Currently, our council engages with ngā Mātāwaka through funding streams or grants. We're also looking at smaller groups who we've also granted. I can think of Rehua Marae, and there are a number of new Māori groups that have come on board and access our granting funds as well. But what I do understand is that individually around the table, the councillors here have some sort of interconnect within their own communities with different Māori-led organisations. Yeah.
Kia ora. And the second one is around the strategy itself. Is there any idea of what that might look like?
I think right now this is the conversation that we're wanting to engage with the council to get a bit of guidance on, to get a sense check with you as well, and also have that conversation with our wider Māori community, because it needs to be led by the people. I mean, they're a community, and they're a community that council has engaged with, but there's this whole part, or there's a group of this community that we still need to hear more about and from, so that we can get a sense check from them. What is it are their expectations as a whole Māori community, and that will inform our strategy.
Kia ora, because I'm thinking about two major councils who have a pretty decent partnership. One of them is Wellington. I think the other one, which is touchy sometimes, would be Taranaki with their Taranaki whānui. Are we looking at other councils and the way that they work with Māori up there?
Absolutely. We've been in a discussion with Auckland and their leader up there in their Māori unit. They've obviously, certainly, they're a super city. They're going through what we've talking about this morning, and they have a unit of their own that's standing along there. So it's something for us to continue engaging with Auckland and that Māori unit up there and how they went through their changes, how they took their city through that conversation as well as we've been checking in with Dunedin. There's although they might not have something similar like this, they have a unit down there as well that are exploring their avenue, so they're closer to home in the South Island. That's the conversation. I also want to touch on that Nelson have some ideas that they've been working on. They work very close with iwi up there as well, so it's a different model again. It'd be good to know in depth how they do this with their community.
Okay, cool. Yanni, please.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I mean, just a request if I could. Is it possible to get the community boards, go around the boards, community boards, and engage them around this as well? Because I just feel like from last term, like repeated requests to get briefing to the community board, and I feel like there's a bit of a gap in our system. So yeah, I would ask, because it's really great. I really enjoyed your presentation, and I know there's a lot more that could sit behind it as well. So really interested in if we can share the information at a local level with the local board members, and then work out what this actually, the response would mean for them. But I guess in terms of Ngā Mata Waka or Māori, like what I'm really interested in is if you look at the demographics in the highest areas of need, it would appear Ngā Mata Waka Māori feature prominently. And what I don't see is any sort of strategy to address that inequity deliberately. So if we look at Plan Change 14, the impact assessment on Māori in Eastern Christchurch, for example, where we heard from some social workers who said they're really concerned that the old affordable houses are being knocked down and we're getting gentrification where urban Māori are being pushed further and further east or into less affordable housing options. The response that I got back around that was that the Commissioner thought that having the ability to develop more housing would lead to greater greater accommodation and affordability for Māori, but the evidence doesn't seem to support that. And so I'm just wondering, like, how do we get an understanding of the things that we could be doing to improve the outcomes for Māori, given the overrepresentation in some statistics, and given how much of our focus has been on Ngāi Tahu, which is important, but I feel like there's a big gap around that Ngā Mata Waka in terms of what we're doing with our policies and our strategies.
Thank you for that, Yanni. I think to your point regarding engagement with Ngā Mata Waka, that's why we've come to the table today, so that we can get those sort of grassroots from the people, from the agencies themselves. What are the solutions to some of the issues you're raising with some of our councillors and in the wider context of our wider community as well? Because I also want to point out that our Māori organisations and social services, they don't only just support Māori. They may be kaupapa Māori, but they support all communities as well.
Thank you. Celeste, please.
Thank you for another excellent presentation. Just wondering, I think, and it makes sense to me to pursue the next steps of the strategy. So what would that look like in practice? Because I think it makes sense, of course, if there is a gap that you've identified, that we look at developing something. So this is the first step, but what does it look like from here? Is there a pathway forward to develop?
Yeah, so we'd come back for further briefings, map out an initial framework and an approach, and that would include engagement and, you know, all the principles that would go into it. But yeah, we'd need to work through that.
I've sort of got a picture in my own head of that, what that may look like, but it's my head. So it needs to be an inclusive approach to making sure we do it properly, and it would be engaged with Papatipu, Pan Māori, staff, council,
Yeah, so I guess my feedback is I'd be very supportive to see that continue, and I think the timing's good because what's needed. And finally, is there, in terms of capacity, I know you're a small team and you're expected to, you know, get across community boards and do the work within council and do all this other work that we very appreciative of, but is there enough resource within your team? Is that something you can come back to as part of this work when you report back?
We do our best with what we've got and within the scope within which we are able to operate. It just depends on how much is expected from us. So we do a lot of prioritising, work at what's important to whānau, what's important to the Papatipu, to Pan Māori, to council, and we work our way through it alongside our ELT and staff.
Thank you.
Just to add to that note too, I think that's a really important question that can probably be answered as we phase through the project planning of this. At the moment, I'd say that the work that we'll be establishing at the moment can be maintained between the two units, strategy policy and ourselves. But as we move through the process, that's probably another conversation.
Victoria, then Tim.
Thank you very much. I'm aware that engagement with our Māori community has been going on. It's not new to the council, including the Pan Māori. So I'm keen to understand, are you anticipating a review and refresh of our current strategy, or are you going right back to the drawing board?
Look, I don't think we have a robust current strategy right now. What I'm more concerned about is the capacity that our Papatipu and Mata Waka whānau have out in the community. It's all good and fine engaging with our Papatipu, but they need to have the capacity to be able to deal with us as well. So that could be identified as a risk moving forward.
So just picking up on the comment, a current robust strategy, is there clarification about whether we have a strategy?
Currently, there's no current strategy under the Christchurch City Council.
You're discussing about a document as a strategy, as a document, as opposed to strategy as an approach. Two different things.
Strategic. Timothy.
Yeah.
Thank you. As we're heading towards rate capping, and hopefully it's a minimum of 4%, not 2%. When you're looking at the other models, it'll be really good to look at the maybe cross-pollination with funding. So, you know, what is core business? Obviously, I think this is core business, but I'm not the government, so who knows what they're thinking. But I guess let's see what others are doing, because ideally, at the end of the day, we want to get as much bang for buck, whoever we're dealing with, and for whatever the end game is. So if we can kind of have an open mind with that, would be really good. And to come back to us and talk to us about it would be great.
Thank you. Carol, please.
Thanks for your presentation. Obviously, we've come a long way in the relationship over many years. I guess my question is, how happy or not are you currently with the relationship with council, and I guess your ability to be heard in terms of how you want to progress in the future?
Is this with Whiria, the Treaty Relationships team, or are we asking from a Māori community perspective?
Both, actually.
Pub, would you like to answer?
Yeah, sure. Look, we've provided all the support from the ELT and staff. We've provided, we identify opportunities and provided the support to carry out some of those things that provide us with those opportunities. In terms of Papatipu, it's a mixed bag, really, Councillor. Well, it really depends on the co-papa at the time. Most of them are happy with our approach, and reasonably happy with our forward-thinking council. There will be some that won't be. Can't please everyone all the time. But in general, the key is for us is comms and maintaining those comms between us and Papatipu.
Thank you, Kel. We've got Tyler and then Tyrone, and then that'll be time.
Kia ora. Just in terms of the strategy itself, I think one thing that we get caught up in quite a lot in with, particularly with Māori strategies, is around the social aspect of things. Obviously, there's many other aspects, particularly in with Te Whare Tapawhā, but the other one I thought about, and I'm sure you would cover that, but the other one I thought about was actually in the economic aspect, around opportunities economically where we could have, like Tim was saying, around cross-pollination, cost-sharing, partnership. Obviously, Ngāi got the Ngāi Fund. There's that Ngā Mātā Waka issue where other Māori, as Yanni pointed out before, may feel left out. It'd be really cool to see how we could work in the economic development space around opportunities for capital, operations, things like that. I think that's a really good way to move forward. Ngāti Toa are really good at doing that. I don't say their name too much, but they're very good at doing that. And I'd be keen to see what opportunities there may lie for us as council, because there may be extreme benefits for both parties, but just a thought.
Thank you, and thank you. And lastly, Tyrone, please.
Thank you. This isn't really a question either, but I guess, like, I'm very supportive of a strategy. I wouldn't be able to do my job without having good relationships with Papatipu and Mana Whenua in general. Yeah, shut up, Jake. And so what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so what that sort of points to is that relationships with that this council has with Papatipu are actually like quite heavily concentrated with what we call the Banks Peninsula Ward, and so to that extent, like the community board and the councillor actually have to deal with some quite meaty, heavy issues that perhaps some of my colleagues don't really sort of come across, and I'm just kind of wondering, and you will already know this anyway. I'm sort of saying it for the benefit of the table, but I'm just wondering what consideration we can sort of give to be able to sort of support the Banks Peninsula area in that regard, because of that overwhelming sort of level of relationships that exist there that don't necessarily exist within the metro space. It's not a question, but we can put a question mark on the end of it. But yeah, anyway.
Okay, so right, so that's in the question, and thank you very much for your presentation. Very good. Thank you. Thank you.